Hey guys, I'm Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So today I'm back out here in the pole barn and I am building a new tractor attachment. This is going to be a quick attachment for the front end of the tractor. This is going to be a debris fork or a manure fork, whatever you want to call it. It's going to have 3-foot long tines that stick out the front of this. There's going to be a total of 12 of them. They're going to be spaced somewhere about 6 inches apart from each other. It's going to be very good at picking up loose hay, and that's what I'm going to use it for. It's going to be able to pick up any of the wasted hay from our animals. I can add that to the compost bin. Plus I'm going to use this to stir the compost bin and hopefully get that manure and wasted hay to compost quicker. So I've got the frame all tack welded together. This is all 1/4 inch thick square tube. This is 2-inch square tube up here, and then the bottom piece is a 3-inch square tube. So this here is one of the tines. I just made this out of 1 1/4 inch square bar stock and put a 45-degree angle on the front of it. Now hopefully these are stout enough that they don't bend up. We'll just have to wait and see once we get to using it. But we got 12 of these made up to weld along the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and weld the frame all out. And then I've got a skid steer mounting plate that's going to go right here, and that's going to allow it to attach to the tractor. All right, I got the frame all welded out. Now I'm just going to use a flap disc. I'm going to flatten some of these welds where the quick attach mounting plate's going to go. Well, I think I got about as square as I'm going to get it, so I'm going to go ahead and start stitch welding this. Well, it's finally got heavy enough now where I can't even lift it up, and I knew it was eventually going to get there. So I've got a piece of metal here. I'm going to take that, I'm going to weld that to the center here on the top. I'm going to use this as like a lifting lug or a lifting point. And then we'll be able to use our little 2-ton crane to be able to lift this up and move it around. So to hold this in place, I've got one of these strong hand tools. It's like a little adjustable magnet. I think that'll be about perfect for this. Okay, top's fully welded out. So I've got the quick attach mounting plate. I've got that all welded out on the frame the way I want it. So the next thing I want to do is I want to cover up these holes. I don't want any of the material falling through back on the tractor. So I've got some 12-gauge sheet metal. We're going to cut that out. We're going to weld that in here. We're going to cover up each one of these holes. And then after that, we'll be ready to finally start putting the tines on the bottom. So I've got all the holes in the frame covered up with the 12 gauge sheet metal. Very time consuming getting those all cut out and fit on there. And then I almost completely welded them around. I wanted to make them as strong as possible. So I think we're finally ready to start putting the tines on there. They're actually going to weld to the bottom, so this may be a little bit tricky. And we got to try to get those evenly spaced and, you know, try to make them all nice and straight with each other. So let's see what we can do. All right, I've got both of the outside tines on. I had to measure them so that the width was the same on the front and the back, and then I had to measure diagonally in both directions to make sure that they were square to the frame. I think I've got them exactly where I want them now. So I think I can just make a spacer block that's the correct spacing, and we can use that to space all the tines down the frame, and we can get those tack welded in place. So I've got the debris fork all welded out now, and I took some paint thinner and I've wiped all the steel down so it's degreased and it's ready to be painted. So at this point in time, I've worked on this about 4 different days, and I've got about 12 hours in this. By the time you cut out all the individual pieces and then weld it together, using the engine hoist here to be able to turn it over and manipulate it in different ways so that I could weld it out. Very awkward piece to put together, but finally ready to paint this, and hopefully tomorrow we can go test it out. So I'm going to move it into the warm side of the shop and get this painted up. I think I'm just going to set this down on these tough-built sawhorses. They're supposed to hold 550 pounds. I'd say this will put it to the test. So I'm finally done with the debris fork. It's all painted up and ready to test out. So the fork is a total of 6 feet wide, and the tines stick out 3 feet. So that's a pretty good sized debris fork. So I'm not sure if I ended up making the tines too long. The longer they are, the more leverage you have on the tip of the tine, and it could bend up. So I may have made these too long. I can always shorten them if we end up bending one. So I'm hoping with the 1.25 inch thick that this is strong enough. I'm gonna go ahead and put my weight on one tine, and it's deflecting a little bit, but it's taking my weight. So hopefully these will do good. So here behind me, we fed probably 3 or 4 round bales to the steers, and they wasted a bunch of hay. I don't have a hay ring. I still plan on getting one, but ton of wasted hay. Now, a little bit of wasted hay on the ground is not a bad thing, but you probably only want to leave about 2 inches thick. This is 6 to 12 inches thick, way too much hay. And it actually starts back over here. So we're going to scrape all this up with the manure fork, and we're going to take that over to the compost pile. It may take a few loads. It's a cold day. The ground is frozen in spots. May not be frozen under here, but with frozen ground, that'll be a good test for the manure fork or the debris fork to see whether there's a possibility we're going to bend those tines up. Well, I think I can say I'm fairly disappointed in the way this worked. It didn't really stab the hay and scoop it up where I could really pick up a bunch. It just pushed it. Like these tines didn't really want to slide into the hay. It just ended up pushing on it. So that's either because these tines, I just cut a 45 at the bottom, so they need to either be more of a point so that it can actually stab the hay a little bit better, or I've got too many tines. Maybe I shouldn't have put 12 tines on here. That's probably the two things that's causing it to push. Now, the other problem is I did bend a tine up. I did probably the worst thing you can do, which is a good test nonetheless. As I put the tine straight down, I tried to scrape with them. And this is full of little tree stumps. I've cut a bunch of trees down out of here this last spring. I forgot about it till we started, and I hit one first try through here. But when I was doing this, I ended up catching one with a tine, and it bent the tine back. Now I was able to put it on a fence post and push down, and I was able to bend that tine back up so where it's kind of lined up with the rest of them, but it's still crooked. So two problems. One, it won't scoop or stab the hay, and two, it's still too easy. It's too easy to bend the tine. So I think what I'm going to do, we're going to take it back to the shop. We're going to cut these a little bit shorter, and we're going to put more of a point on them. And then we'll test it again and see how that does. Well, I ended up taking 12 inches off of the tines, so they're only 24 inches long now. So I may have ended up taking off too much. But instead of doing this multiple times, I decided to go big and cut off a whole foot. So hopefully it's going to work now. So let's go ahead and see if we can go pick up some hay. So the number one reason why I built the debris fork was to stir this compost bin. You get all this hay in here and manure like this, and a tractor bucket is not going to pick this up. So I wanted something to be able to pick this up and pull it out, stir this up so it'll compost quicker. Now I know some people will comment about the grapple. Why don't I just use a grapple? Well, a grapple I can go out and I can pick up hay with the grapple and I can throw it in here. But the grapple will not pull stuff back out of here because of the way that grapple is designed. It's like a clamshell, and it'll hit the back of this compost bin. It can't close against the back of this compost bin or against a wall. It just can't close because it would hit. So that's where this fork comes in, is I can scoop up against the back of this and pull it out, and it'll work right up against a wall where my grapple won't. So even though I'm not real happy with the way this performed, it's going to stay the way it is for now. I think I've got like probably at least 15 hours in this, a lot of time, and needless to say, I'm very disappointed after all that time that it just didn't pick stuff up and carry it as easily as I wanted it to. So I can do some things to improve it, that's for sure, but that'll be a few more hours worth of work. So for now, this is going to stay exactly the way it is, and then maybe later down the road I'll try to modify this a little bit so that it scoops a little bit better, and but that is not going to be anytime soon. I think I'm kind of burnt out on this project, so it'll work for what I want it to. It just doesn't work as good as I thought it would. And I didn't want to do the clamp-on bucket. I've got clamp-on pallet forks. I started off with clamp-on pallet forks, and they're kind of a joke. Like, I mean, you really have to chain those on tight with chains. And I wanted a dedicated implement to be able to do this, instead of doing the ones that fit on your bucket, like you bolt or clamp onto your bucket. I didn't really want to go that route. I really wanted one that was kind of its own dedicated implement, and that's what I was going for. It just didn't turn out as good as I wanted it to, but I can improve it later if I want to take the time. But I think that's going to be it for this video. I spent way too much time on this project, and I'm ready to do something else. So that's it, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.